Hi everyone, Morgie Roy here again. I just wanted to talk about a ttrpg that pretty much everyone has heard of, and especially after Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have been doing some interesting things the last few years. A lot of people have converted to, and I just want to talk about the things that I love about Pathfinder 2e. Now, I have not run Pathfinder 2e myself. I have been a player in it for a while with one of my other main players running it, and he also uses Foundry. So Foundry is good because it does a lot of the more crunchy stuff of Pathfinder for you, which is nice. And also all the rules and stuff are at the click of a button. And he also uses the website, the Archive of Nethys, for a lot of helpful information and ideas, suggestions on how to build your class and feats to choose, and also just lore and things like that. And right now he's running Abomination vaults for us, which has been very fun. Pathfinder is an interesting system. I'm a D&D girly. I've only run D&D games and technically a quest game, which I've talked about quests. It's kind of a simpler D20 system. D&D 5e is the one that I've run the most. And it's definitely the most popular system for a reason. It's pretty accessible, but it still has a little bit of crunch. And the rules are fairly solid in combat, but outside of combat, they are a little bit more loosey-goosey for RP moments. So it's an interesting combination of games. I would say it's probably a 5 out of 10 for complication for if you are learning as a new player. Pathfinder, I would say, is more of a 7 out of 10 for crunchiness complication if you are learning it as a new player. And like I said, I am a player of it, but I'm also using Foundry. So that is doing a lot of the work for me. But as a player, there are a lot of things I like about Pathfinder. It makes it very handy for GMs because in D&D 5e, whenever there is a rule that is a little bit up in the air, usually a GM or DM has to make a ruling, and then they might change their mind later, but it's because the rule doesn't necessarily exist. In Pathfinder 2e, 95% of the time, the rule for whatever you want to do in the game, there is a rule for it, and there is an action that you can do to do that thing. There are tons and tons of different actions you can do, and what you can use for them and stuff, whereas D&D is a little bit more loose for that. You can think of that as a positive or a negative, but for me, it is a positive. I think that's very good that they have less of that vagueness with the rules that D&D 5e has. Or another thing with Pathfinder 2e that I enjoy is its action system. You have 3 actions, and everything that you can do within those 3 actions. So you have to figure out what is the best use of those actions, and that creates a lot of strategy and tactical use that you can do in a combat. For me, I'm a rogue. It's like I could attack once and I could attack 2 more times, but every time you attack in Pathfinder, your attacks decrease in their effectiveness of whether you're going to hit or not. So I could take the chance that my attack will hit, even though I have a lower chance of rolling an attacking hit, or I could raise my shield, or I could move, or I could do any other action in that and use one of those actions to do that. And same for spellcasters. They could do a 1 action spell, which would do something, or they could use 2 other actions, which makes the spell stronger generally, or they could use all 3 actions and it makes the spell as strong as it possibly can be, but they can't do anything else on their turn. So I really like that system. It adds a lot of tactical thinking to a Pathfinder game. And involving that, there's also a lot more teamwork in a Pathfinder game than I find in a D&D 5e game. There can be teamwork in a D&D 5e game. I'm not saying that there can't be, but generally, you can kind of do your own thing. Whereas in Pathfinder 2e, I'm a rogue, so I get benefits for enemies being off guard. I do more damage. I get my sneak attack. And I can use an action to try and put something off guard, which may or may not work, or an ally can flank them and I will get off guard automatically. So me and the other player in our group is a monk. So the 2 of us try to work together as much as we can so that we both get benefits for being in a fighting situation. I've only played a rogue. She's a little plant person, a Leshy in Pathfinder 2e called Floret. She's right here. And as you can see from her art, she is incredibly effective at killing things. She's very friendly. But when you decide that you're not her friend and you're going to attack her other friends, she hurts things a lot. And it's very fun. The combat in Pathfinder 2e for me is so interesting that I look forward to combat in Pathfinder 2e more than I usually do in D&D 5e because they're both long. They both take a long chunk of a session out because there's both a lot of rules and stuff to navigate. But I'm thinking a lot more during other people's turns in Pathfinder 2e than I am in a D&D 5e game. I'm thinking about where people are, what they're doing. And I find that really interesting, and it keeps me more engaged in the fight because, as I mentioned many, many times, I have ADHD, so I can very easily lose what's going on. Abomination Vaults is kind of a dungeon crawl, so there is a lot of combat in that game. And we have almost died so many times in that game because we bit off more than we can chew, and we almost died. And that level of concern and fear and like trying to decide whether a fight is worth it or not, I don't tend to experience in D&D 5e because the way D&D 5e for me, running it and playing it, is that early in the game, I have a higher chance of instantly dying. And then later in the game, you tend to sweep through a lot of things unless your DM is very skilled at balancing encounters. And in Pathfinder 2e, every single fight we've been in has been a life or death challenge. And it is great. In that adventure we are doing, we have had to retreat from several fights. And it's great. It's a great feeling to be pushed to the limit as a ttrpg character and just feel like you barely squeak through every single fight. And every fight, if things went a different way, could go very, very wrong. Like I said, I'm a Leshy, and I love that that race. I assume that there is probably a homebrew Leshy in D&D 5e, but there isn't one in the normal rules, and I think that's a sad thing because Floret, my character, is probably one of my favorite characters I've ever played. I didn't talk about her before because she wasn't a D&D character. Like I said, she kills things very effectively. But some other things I like about Pathfinder 2e, the art. I know this is a random thing and a subjective thing, but the art we have seen, at least in Abomination Vaults, has been both incredibly beautiful and incredibly disgusting, depending on what the artwork is of. And I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love the D&D 5e artwork. It's also very nice, but the Pathfinder artwork, the character artwork is so pretty and has like this painted quality to it. And then the monster artwork is absolutely disgusting and makes me want to be sick. And I know that is what they were intending to do with that art, and I respect them for it. I think they did a great job. That's completely subjective though, and that's just my personal opinion though. I just really have been appreciating the art as we've been going. I think Abomination Vaults, this is again just the campaign that we're playing, very cool adventure. The vault itself is very interesting to design. I'm not going to give anything away because I don't want to spoilers for any story, because there is a story in it. It's a dungeon crawl, but there is a story. It has a lot of interesting tricks and secrets in it. So that's less about Pathfinder itself than more of the adventure that we are playing. But yeah, the amount of character customization in Pathfinder 2e is very involved and interesting. Right now, Floret is a rogue with a Wildborn background, as in she was in basically the equivalent of a D&D Outlander. And she's a leaf Leshy, based on a dandelion. So she has an ability where she doesn't take fall damage when she falls because she's so light and fluffy. She is harmlessly cute. She has nimble dodge, which makes it that she has more AC when something's attacking her as a response. I took quick identification, which makes it that she can identify magic quicker than normally takes. And she's the thief racket. So that's just her level 1 abilities. She also has a bunch of other things from being a rogue, which is cool. And that's the way Pathfinder 2e builds its characters. There's all these feats you can choose, and you get racial feat or ancestry feats, you get class feats, and then you just get general feats. And it just makes it so that no two characters are alike. And I know to an extent you can do that in D&D 5e, but it's not as deep as this. It does make it a little bit more, you have to do a little bit more research when you level up or when you build your class in Pathfinder 2e because of that. But it does make it so that there is more customization. And finally, the part I like Pathfinder 2e is that despite the fact that Wizards of the Coast has been doing better lately, hasn't been doing anything openly evil lately like they were before. And I love D&D 5e as much as the next person, but you can love the game and not be a fan of the company. They don't have to go together. And Paizo as a company, let's just say, they're the ones that I would be more willing to support with my money than Hasbro right now. And for like a third option nowadays that goes more towards the narrative as opposed to the crunchy numbers like Pathfinder 2e, there's also Daggerheart now, and that's become very popular. But anyway, that's a little off topic. But the long and short of it is that I would rather support Paizo than Hasbro. So you can make your own decisions about that, but for me, that is a pro to Pathfinder 2e. Don't prefer Pathfinder to D&D 5e. I like both systems. I think they both have their pros and cons. But these are the things that I've really enjoyed about Pathfinder 2e since I've started playing it. I don't know how running Pathfinder is. I heard that it is a lot more involved, but easier in some aspects. So if you have run Pathfinder 2e, also please comment and share your opinions. I would love to hear them. But anyway, I hope everyone out there is having a great day. If you're not having a great day, I hope your bad day is over with soon. We'll talk next time. Like and subscribe. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye!